This video is the brief introduction to hermeneutics in my series of videos, brief introductions in philosophy. I have quite a few of them in the various branches and kinds of philosophies that exist today and that are out there and that people do discuss. This is a brief introduction to the kind of philosophy mostly on the continental side of things, called hermeneutics. And this is something that isn't just trying to see if the camera can see everything. This isn't just in that continental side, but it does apply to other things, and is the kind of philosophy that in my opinion is very important. So I guess when we're talking about hermeneutics, we're talking about a few certain figures, like four that I think are probably most important. There are a lot of other writers following these two in today that have kind of made this kind of philosophy what it is today. But today I mostly want to talk about the four figures of this movement, and it is also closely related to phenomenology and existentialism, specifically the phenomenology of Edmund Husserl, and of course Martin Heidegger, and the existentialism, and of course phenomenology of people like Jean-Paul Sartre and those following him. And I guess I'll start with the first figure I want to discuss, and that's Martin Heidegger. This is his landmark work. He has many others, but this is definitely the one that you should read if you want to start reading Heidegger. This is it, Being in Time. Another great work of his that I would like to do some videos about in the future is The History of the Concept of Time. Pretty much, Martin Heidegger was a student of Edmund Husserl, and kind of, in a way, began the idea of hermeneutics and that of interpretation. In Being in Time, as well as other works, he uses the word interpretation quite a bit, and thinks about how we're going to interpret the meaning of being, and thus how we're going to look at the total structure of being, and through that he thinks about worldhood, being in, and being as care, and being with others and stuff like that. So in Being in Time, as well as other works, he looks at the meaning of being and the total structure of being. Thus he's doing what is called ontology. So he's talking about being, he's talking about, in a way, consciousness, by talking about Dasein. Dasein is basically the figure that is used in the book to talk about being there. Literally, the term Dasein means being there. And that's talking about the human condition, talking about consciousness itself, and that's kind of, it's kind of not really fair to classify him, blandly talking about consciousness and the human condition, because it's much more than that. He talks about reality, the way things are via us, and how things in this world are all linked up via the human consciousness, via Dasein itself, via being in the world, and tries to explicate and uncover and interpret the meaning of being. Martin Heidegger looked at Husserl's way of looking at things, and via Husserl's life world and his phenomenology, and kind of had a phenomenology of his own, which kind of went beyond phenomenology and went to existentialism. as well as to hermeneutics. So hermeneutics has its roots in phenomenology and existentialism. So Heidegger is big here. So the big thing of hermeneutics is interpretation. Interpretation is big here. That's the main central concept of hermeneutics. Typically, hermeneutics is not my favorite thing. I mean, I do love Heidegger, but I'm less interested in Gadamer and Ricoeur and Dilthey. I'm less interested in, I mean, I am definitely interested in Ricoeur and Gadamer, but I'm more interested in people like Derrida and Michel Foucault. I'm definitely more interested in the deconstruction side of things rather than the hermeneutical side of things. So Martin Heidegger, I could not possibly explain him in one, lecture or one video. There's no way I could do that. I'm trying to do that in multiple videos, and I already have multiple videos on Heidegger. But there's still no way I could possibly characterize his work, even in Being in Time by itself. But the reason he is a part of hermeneutics is because of his central use of the word interpretation, because in his work he is interpreting the meaning of being itself and interpreting the self and others and truth and reality via us, via Dasein, and via being itself and being in the world itself, and all the different things that he does there. So among these, Heidegger is my favorite, and the one that I read a lot. Second, I think Hans-Georg Gadamer is the next one I want to discuss. He is basically almost, Heidegger kind of set the stage, and Gadamer basically hid his books, his book Truth and Method, as well as other writings and lectures, kind of set the stage for the hermeneutics that is hermeneutics today, basically. And I guess Gadamer, there's a book that I have done a video on, which records lectures between Hans-Georg Gadamer and Jacques Derrida. Gadamer believes in truth and reality and self-understanding, that there is a reality between people that can be interpreted and understood, and there is a mutual understanding between each other, and that can be uncovered and interpreted, and that there is a true reality in the world via us that can be uncovered. Derrida is totally against that, and I'm mostly with Derrida here, that there is no reality. There is a reality that there is for Derrida, there is reality through difference and difference in deferral, and so Derrida wants to deconstruct any kind of true reality that is given by Heidegger or Gadamer or any other realistic philosopher. He wants to tear down the Platonic heaven. He wants to tear down Plato's philosophy. He wants to tear down and deconstruct any kind of philosopher who hints at any sort of true, concrete, absolute reality. And that's kind of what Heidegger hints at, and that's what Gadamer also hints at. However, Gadamer and Heidegger do it in different ways. To Paul Ricoeur, well, first off, books on another book I have is, this is a book that is full of Gadamer's, some of Gadamer's writings. Another figure is Paul Ricoeur. This is a great book by Ricoeur if you want to read Ricoeur, oneself as another. Ricoeur is difficult to read, and I haven't gotten as much into Ricoeur as I should have. And I think Corey Anton has some good videos on Ricoeur on his channel. But he does discuss selfhood and tries to interpret selfhood, and he does argue that otherness is prior to self. So a lot of issues, given here in the subject of hermeneutics is as to which is prior, the other or self. These three figures are going to say that other is prior to self, and that through otherness, your selfhood can emerge. However, it is never prior to other. Dilthey, I have less understanding of, and I have yet to read. I have this book, but I haven't read it, and I don't have much understanding of him as I would like to. So, guys, don't ask me questions about Dilthey because I have no real understanding of it yet. So I guess if you want to ask me questions about any of these people, ask me about Derrida, Heidegger, and also Gadamer, and definitely Husserl and Sartre. There's the argument between Gadamer and Derrida kind of creates a whole hermeneutics versus deconstruction kind of stage. And while the hermeneutics philosopher like Gadamer is going to hint at that real truth that can be uncovered as to how we are related between each other, and I definitely need to read Gadamer's Truth and Method, which I have not yet. But while Derrida is going to argue a very different look at things, and there's also this whole idea of interpretation can be applied to different things, such as there's something called biblical hermeneutics, as things going on in the Bible are not understood in a way that everybody understands it. So there is something that is called exegesis. I forgot. I don't know how to pronounce that word. But if you go to Bible college, there's a major that you can major in called biblical interpretation, which is basically this is what you're doing. You're trying to interpret what God is saying or what those prophets are saying, and there are many different takes going on here. So this is the main thing: interpreting the meaning of being, selfness versus selfhood versus other, and also selfhood versus other, and the real truth, the real reality. So if you think I've messed something up or messing out, especially about these two, which I have not as much understanding of Ricoeur as I should. I have no understanding of Dilthey, but he is a definite figure. And I have some understanding on him. So if you have something you want to say, and I'm pretty confident, very, very confident in my understanding of Heidegger. But if you have something you want to ask or tell me or whatever, comment below. Thank you.